Hello and welcome to Intuitive Insights. On this channel we discuss everything to do with the ascension process. And today we're going to be talking about a term that we throw around a lot, which is the dark night of the soul. And just sort of the experience of that and what that can look like and what that can be, just so that you guys have more of an understanding when we bring it up, like what it is that we're exactly referring to or talking about.
Yep. So the dark night of the soul is, you can think of it like, I personally perceive it as something that happens when I go through an awakening or my consciousness raises vibration and it illuminates certain shadows within that space. And so what happens is my soul will guide me into retrieving those aspects of me. It's about integrating the shadow. So the shadow is revealed. What tends to happen is we begin to question our lives, what we're doing, our jobs, our relationships, and because when those light activations come in, it tends to like burn away the things that aren't serving us, and then we're given the ability to question the way that we're interacting with life. And when we're leveling up, a lot of the times what happens is we go through a dark night of the soul to integrate those shadow aspects and then bring them up with us, and then we'll integrate in more light, and then we may have another dark night of the soul. And it sounds really scary, but it's not. The dark night of the soul, it's coming for you.
Yeah, it's like a purging process.
Yeah,
it's a purging process. It's that shadow work, that shadow integration. It's a very, very Plutonian kind of process.
Yeah.
Right? And it reveals these deeper layers of ourselves that are ready to be healed, that can then be brought up into the light for the purpose of healing. Yeah. And we see this, we wanted to talk about this especially because we see this going on collectively right now in the world. As a result, I think a lot of it had to do with, the pandemic and all of that happening, and just people just being in this state of uncertainty, and then sort of being forced to spend more time with themselves.
Yeah.
And just a lot of times when that happens, we go through this process because it's easier to ignore that stuff if we're busy all the time, and if we're constantly focused on what's outside of ourselves. But the dark night of the soul is when we really go inside and we find out what's actually going on in there, and then we have to face that. But as we face that and we look our shadows in the face, and we work through this stuff, it brings us to that next stage of our awakening.
Yeah, and it's an opportunity to really have compassion and love for those aspects of ourselves, because those are aspects of ourselves that we have rejected and cast aside. And then a lot of the times what will come up is the way that we're judging others or the way that we're judging ourselves is actually an aspect of us that we are being asked to love back into unity with our soul. So it's a good way to look at how a shadow may be asking to be integrated within you is if you begin to watch the way that your thoughts are with other people, if like I said, if we're judging or feelings of not being good enough or unworthiness, those are shadow aspects. So essentially communicating with that shadow and, being I love you, you are source, and then having that communication with yourself basically is a beautiful way to do that. And then bring source in and bring the divine in and allow that to integrate in, because the more that we reject it and ignore it, it will keep coming up, but if we keep ignoring it, it'll get louder and louder and louder, and then something will manifest. You'll have a tower moment in the tarot, and then you have this divine intervention. You're it's horrible at first, and then all of a sudden you're oh my gosh, I'm so grateful that happened, because now I was able to grow and evolve as a person, and the divine will really step in. But that doesn't always have to happen if we can see it ahead of time and work with the energies at hand. So Yeah.
Yeah, in a nutshell.
Yeah, so that's basically what a dark night of the soul is.
And it's really a beautiful thing, and it's a
Yeah.
good thing. Like, if any of you watching this are relating and being like, oh yeah, I'm feeling that right now, like I'm
Yeah.
going through that, that means that you are going through a spiritual awakening.
Yeah.
Because this is one of the first stages of a spiritual awakening, is this dark night of the soul.
Third eye will
It's
start
like
to
we
open.
receive the illumination, and then that brings up all the stuff that's no longer a vibrational match, which is a lot of that shadow stuff, right?
Yeah.
The stuff that is underneath the surface in the subconscious, the stuff that's directly affecting our reality, often unbeknownst to us. So it's a great opportunity to be able to work through those things so that we can come from a more conscious place of manifesting and creating our reality, and just be more of the authentic person that we are. Like, be that person in the world.
Yeah, and just be authentic to who you are as a person, and
And it's going to bring up a lot of stuff, and it's going to bring up all the stuff that's not working.
Yeah.
And we're really going to see what's not working and like where we're unfulfilled.
Yeah.
And so the opportunity then is to move towards something that is more fulfilling.
Yeah.
When we after we work through this process, when we come out the other side of it. And so I think initially, that first really intense dark night of the soul, like, we experience little ones throughout our lives, and they generally are the things that catalyze us to make a change. But when we go through this awakening process, like, the first one tends to be the roughest.
Yeah.
Because there's so much stuff that hasn't been dealt with, and so much that's wanting to be cleared and transmuted.
Yeah.
But then as we continue on our awakening path, it's just, we go through many dark nights of the soul after that. I mean, this is generalized. Obviously, it's not going to be that way for everyone, but from my experience, it's like, but we also understand more each time of what's happening. So I think we're able to better utilize the energies too. And we're like, oh, okay, this is coming into my consciousness. Like, why is this? What is this? Like, how can I love this? How can I embrace this aspect of myself? How can I utilize this energy to my advantage? Or like Kayla likes to say, like, how can I alchemize this energy? And then we use it as an impetus to, like, move forward and to project ourselves forward and gain that forward momentum again.
Which comes with practice, essentially. And the more that you do it, the easier it will get. And if you are watching this, then most likely you have had an experience like this, or it's something that you may think that you might be experiencing currently. Just know that you're not alone in that, and that we're all connected energetically, and that we are also here for you. And we do have services available if you decide that you want to look further into a relationship or a job. I do tarot readings. Cassie provides amazing Bell Vespertile healings, which helps you open your heart and really anchor in that heart-centered consciousness, which will assist you in the clearing process of those old patterns and integrating that energy into the heart space.
I do readings now as well too.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
both, I mean, just reach out. If you're feeling drawn, if you connect with one of us, our energy, like, reach out to us. And like, we're here to help you through this process. And it's like, the more we go through this process, the more then it turns into a thing where, like, eventually we don't need to have a dark night of the soul anymore, because it's like, as things come up, we're acknowledging them and processing them and integrating them, and it becomes a natural thing that we do. But like, we have to learn how to do that. And so this is like practice in teaching us how to work with those energies and how to do that the most effectively, and to really understand this process of healing, because we're always in a process of healing. And it's just like making the most of it and getting the most that we can out of it, and just like loving ourselves fiercely through that process. And Kayla and I both love all of you so very much, so very fiercely. And yes. So if you've experienced a dark night of the soul, if you can relate to this, leave a comment, leave some inspiration for others. If you like this video, like it, subscribe if you want to catch more videos. We do all videos on all different types of topics, everything to do with the ascension and all the different experiences of the awakening journey. And we're just so happy to be here, to be able to share our own experience with what that journey looks like.
Yep.
And yeah, it's ever evolving as we are. All right.
Peace and love.
Catch you guys soon.